to a Hope 1032 podcast.
I'm Colette Smart, and I'm a psychologist, a teacher, and your host on Raising Teens. I'm also a parent, and I'm in the middle of raising my own teens and young adult children. I know that raising teens can be fun and busy, but also terrifying and even lonely. I've experienced all of these emotions, sometimes in the same day. On this podcast, I'm joined by well-known experts, and we chat about some of the most common questions I get asked about raising teenagers in my own work, and even some questions I have myself. I have such hope for this generation of young people, so each episode is full of support and practical advice. I love seeing all your questions come in, so each season I focus on some that teachers, parents, and carers have raised. We're all caring for the teens we love so much, so please keep sending in your ideas and questions through my Instagram and Facebook page or via the Hope 1032 podcast webpage, so we can support this generation of teens together. Hi everyone, welcome to the first mini episode of the season. I thought, following on from our interview with Lisa last week on the topic of sleep and teens, I would answer the question from Jen. It really seems to flow on well from our episode on sleep. Jen said, "Thanks so much for the brilliant information on sleep. This is really important in our house as my teen is neurodivergent. I'm starting with some of the tips this week before school starts. But I'm wondering, I've listened to your episode on starting high school, and I wanted to know if there are specific things I can do to help my child as they start a new year. Every year is really tricky as everything feels new and overwhelming for them. Thanks for considering my question, and thanks for all the support." Thanks so much for the question, Jen. Well, as a parent of a neurodivergent teen, whether they have ADHD, autism, or both, I can't really tell from your question, but I can hear that you already know that the start of a new year can feel big. New teachers, new routines, new expectations, and some teens thrive on fresh starts, but many feel overwhelmed long before that first bell rings on the first day of school. And some of them, it can last into the first week or two of school. Every day can feel quite overwhelming for them. Let's get into how we can make this transition a little bit smoother. Not perfect, not stress-free, just more supportive or more predictable and more compassionate for our kids. I think what I'll do is I'll walk you through 4 practical ways you can help your teen to feel safe, more confident, and just ready to learn this year. Number 1, I would say, is build predictability before day 1. For many of our neurodivergent teens, that uncertainty is one of the biggest stressors for them, especially our autistic teens, but also those with ADHD or those who struggle with transitions and executive functioning. One of the most powerful things we can offer is predictability. Predictability might look a little bit like getting back into sleep routines, like we learned last week from Lisa. We can start that now around the week before school starts. Then thinking about things like walking or driving the school route together, particularly if you have a teen changing schools or catching public transport for the first time in high school, or your teen starting a new school. Any of those kind of changes to their getting to school routine, do a bit of a practice. Visiting the school campus ahead of time, if possible, again, if that's new, a new school or a new routine. And then reviewing the schedules, if they have a locker that's allocated to them, even their teachers' names. I often advise parents to get hold of the school a few days before, because the teachers are usually there those few days before doing preparation, and ask for support in doing this. Getting your child's schedule a little bit earlier ahead of time. Not all children need this, but our neurodivergent teens, it really just helps smooth their first day or their first few days. You could also practice and talk through the morning routines before school actually starts. So what does your day look like? Do we put out uniforms beforehand, have lunch boxes ready beforehand? A lot of that helps their day-to-day in general. And then also plan to meet a friend at the gate for walk-in, or plan to meet somebody who's catching public transport if you can do it as early as that. But having someone with you is very helpful for our teens. It just helps them not to feel alone, and they have support and can lean on their mates. Even small things like knowing what time lunch is, or where to go, or who to ask if they feel overwhelmed during the day, this significantly reduces their anxiety. And here's something really important. Your teen doesn't need every answer. It's okay if you can't give them all of the answers and predict every step. That is part of learning to live in an unpredictable world. They just need to know that there is a plan and that you'll help them adjust if things don't go smoothly, and you'll help them find someone to talk to or go to if things aren't going well. So just think of some predictability basically as emotional scaffolding. It's holding them steady while everything else feels new. The second point would be to co-create support systems. So don't just hand them something or dictate or tell them what you think their support system should be. It's really tempting to just jump in and problem solve for our kids, email their teachers and set up planners and organize their timetables. Some of that we can do early on, or we can support our teens when they don't know how to organize. But the key is collaboration, not control. So instead of saying things like, here's how we're going to manage the school year and this is what you're going to do, you might try, so what feels hardest about school for you right now? And you could add, what time can you give me tomorrow to go through a few things with you so we can brainstorm ahead of time? Invite your teen into the planning process. Think about what helps when they're overwhelmed. Ask them, what has helped you before? Who feels safe for you to talk to at school? And what accommodations have the school put in place before that have actually worked for you? Not just the paper suggestions or those given by teachers. What does your teen find helpful to them? For teens with ADHD, this might include flexible deadlines, movement breaks during the day. Visual reminders are very helpful for our teens, helping them to study in really short bursts of time. For autistic teens, it might mean short temporary periods in quiet spaces, so not for the whole term or every day. That's a temporary measure. And giving written instructions and the predictability of routines, with your teen being able to visualize and see what they are day to day. Because when teens feel ownership over their supports and their support structures, they're far more likely to use them and trust that the school is something happening with them, not to them. Our third point could be to prioritize emotional regulation over academic performance. This is a big one, and honestly, it can sound counterintuitive, but when school starts, it's easy to focus on their marks and their homework and attendance and how well they achieve at certain things. But for our neurodivergent teens, emotional regulation really comes first, because learning cannot happen when their nervous system is overloaded. So instead of saying, for example, did you finish your work? Try something like, how did your body feel at school today? How did you feel when you were chatting to new people in class? What you're doing here is you're normalizing exhaustion, shutdowns, even meltdowns or withdrawal that after school aren't misbehavior. They're often signs of masking that fatigue or sensory overload that they've had all day, and they're coming in and kind of collapsing in the door with. And they often take it out on you at home. And so it's helpful for you to have supports. You could think of decompression time after school. Give them permission and space for that. Ask them what works. Perhaps not interrogating them initially with how their day was. I mean, I know as a mum, I want to know how my children's first day and week has gone at school. It's important for me to know that they're doing okay. But for our teens, very often they just want to be quiet for a little while. Give them permission to not have to chat with you about that initially. That will also alleviate some of the anger outbursts or the meltdowns with you. You could also reduce demands on tough days, even saying things like, we all help each other on tough days, so today we're going to do your dishwasher for you. So it's modeling kindness with each other when things are overwhelming. And really give clear signals that home is a safe place. Helping them think of, would they like a snack straight after school? What kind of things can you do to help them go into a place where they can just chill for a while before homework or sport or whatever else is expected of them? Remember, progress isn't always visible on reports. Sometimes it looks simply like your teen walking through the school gates, maybe attending sport or a camp, even when it's hard, and that counts for our neurodivergent children. The final point is to shift from fixing to understanding. Again, as a mum, I have to actually weekly get myself out of fixing mode, not trying to fix things for my children. It's so difficult, but it's really a mindset shift. And I'm working on this myself, so don't feel like you're alone. This might be the most powerful mindset shift of all. When our neurodivergent teen is struggling, as I said, our instinct is to fix their behavior. We might try and say something like, you need to be a bit more organized, or just push through it, or don't worry so much. But what actually works and builds resilience is curiosity rather than correction. So perhaps instead of asking or thinking to ourselves, what is wrong with this behavior? We might try something like, what is my child's behavior trying to tell me? And think about how avoiding something might mean they're overwhelmed, or anger outbursts might mean they're struggling with fear or frustration. Shutting down might mean they're absolutely exhausted in the first week or two. When teens feel understood rather than managed, their stress drops and then their capacity rises. You don't have to try to solve everything. Sometimes the most regulating thing in the world is simply hearing. Saying something like, I can hear how that makes sense. I'm here for you when you're ready to plan, or I'm here for you when you would like to talk, or would you like a cup of tea? Just letting them know you hear and that you care. And say to them, when you feel ready, let's work together to move forward just one step. If there's one thing I would love for you to take away today, it's this. You don't need to turn your teen into someone else to help them succeed at school. You're not trying to make them more normal, in inverted commas. You're helping them feel safe, more capable, and more supported, just as they already are, for who they are. Transitioning is hard for everyone, especially our neurodivergent nervous systems. And with predictability, collaboration, emotional safety, and genuine understanding, this school year for your child can be more than just survival. It can be about growing, and it can be about growing at your teen's own pace. If today feels messy, you're not failing, you're parenting. Thanks so much for listening to this mini episode. In the meantime, keep parenting with your teen's future adults in mind. See you next week. If you found this episode helpful or gained some useful insight from it, please subscribe and review wherever you get your podcasts, and consider sharing it with your friends and family. I hope to see you next episode, but in the meantime, keep parenting with your teen's future adults in mind.
1032. Thanks for listening.